Hi everyone, welcome back to part 2 of my Graphic 45 brand ambassador project, and this time it is my Sunshine on My Mind Staggered page book. You may think this isn't Sunshine on My Mind, this is the Mother Goose one. This was my trial run, and when we open it up, what you'll find is a staggered page. So this was my little trial run, and I only had one 8x8 pad for this. And as you can see, I did manage to cover it all, but I did have some extras left over. So we've added some extra little bits into that next one. But this is my featured collection project. So, assignment. So I have actually used a bit more than just the 8x8 this time for this one, but that was just proof you can get away. So in this video, we're going to be adding some extra elements and decorating it and showing you some ways of paper saving and how I work out my flaps and pockets to make the most out of my papers. So let's begin by just decorating the two inside covers. So it's an 8 1/4 by 8 1/4 album, which means my 8x8 paper is going to be perfect for covering it in one go. So I could use that. I do like text, but let's have a look if we've got something where we can just sort of flip middle. Yes, let's go for that watermelon. And what's good about that one is I've got a third sheet left over, which will really match those two sheets I've got of the inside cover. So let's go for this. So first of all, we want to trim off that name tape. So we're going to make them 8x8. See if I can cut them at the same time. Just got my trimmer out. So 8 inches. My blades come up the track then. Right, so I've got my 8x8 paper now, and keeping my trimmer out. My small pocket is 2 3/4. Now I like to go down 1/4 inch, so I'm going to go down to 2.5 inches. So from the bottom of this page, my pocket is 2 3/4, so I'm going to go down to 2.5. So we've got our two bottom pages, and then the space between the top of the small pocket and top of the large pocket is 1 3/4, which means I'm going to cut this at 1 3/4. And there we go. Let's have a look now. We should have the pattern then just carrying on. So if you wanted to use a page such as this, you would actually still have it in one piece. But because I'm going to do some flipping and things, this will now tuck just beneath that. So it'll just go under a little bit. This will just go under that just a little bit. And then that will fit onto your front. Now, I actually quite like it. I quite like it with all the watermelons, actually. But what I originally was thinking was you could flip. Actually, how's about we just flip the bottom one? So you could flip just the middle one and have them alternating. But I do like the pattern repeat. So yes, do you know what? I'm just going to flip the bottom ones this time. And just to help along, I'm just going to ink with some black soot distress ink. It just gets rid of that white edge. So I'm going to place that there. With this one, you're not going to see the bottom edge, so I'm not going to bother inking it. if it gets tucked into a pocket, you don't need to ink it because you're not going to see it. Same as this one, I'm just going to do the sides and the top. And then when I come to stick, I always stick the pocket which is on the top first, because it's got 4 edges of card to line up. So I've got an edge here, here, and the top and bottom, so I can line it up. With the other pages, because you're tucking it in, it's easier to go off center, so, or wonky. So I always do the one where I can edge all 4 edges first. So this one, go there, and here we go. My pocket won't open. There we go. So that is how nice and quick and easy it is to do. And then it's just a case of repeat. So I stick this one straight down because we can. This is nice because it's a non-directional paper with those vertical lines. Doesn't matter which way up it goes. And then these ones, it does matter. There we go. Because I do want that pattern repeat, so the pattern continuation. And the last one. Just taking a glue right around. There we go. And tuck it in. And line it all up. A bit of excess glue there. And there you have your cover, and you can see these papers, the Sunshine Mind, all sort of match so lovely. It's probably one of the easiest ones to coordinate I've worked with. So now we can start working on our pages. So I'm going to start just thinking now, this is going to be the first one you see, so what should we go for? We want something a little bit interesting, which is going to pull in from the sides. So you could use that one. It's on the back of that one. Just some greenery. That's not going to be enough inch. How's about this? That's going to be a good one. Right. So I want to cut out a square from this. But before I cut it, I'm going to have a think which way. Because if I cut it that way, I'm limiting myself to just being able to put it on pockets which are that big and that big. So I'm going to cut it this way. That way I've got this nice vertical piece which is going to fit onto my back one as well. So I can decorate the front and back using this same paper. So my page was 4.5. Yeah, 4.5. So I'm going to cut this at 4.5, down 1/4 to 4.25 inches. And I'm going to make that a square, 4.25 inch square. Okay, so that means I've got that piece ready to go there. But I've also got this nice large piece here, which is 3 3/4. Yeah. This page is 7 1/2. So I'm going to go to 7 1/4. So I've got this lovely piece now, which can be used that way or can be used that way, so we can show more of the papers. And with this piece, I could make a vertical pocket. And the vertical pocket then, if this is 3 3/4, would be a 4-inch wide pocket. Or I could stick it on a flap, and that's what I think I'll do. I've got this piece here. So my page is 7 1/2 inches. My paper was 3 3/4, which means I can make a 4-inch flap, but I need to cut it 4 1/2, so I've got my little hinge. So bring the scoring board and score 1/2 inch down. So that is how I work out my measurements and how I work out what I can do to make the most out of my papers. So as I cut off, I'm thinking, where can the rest go? So I'm going to score that nice and sharply because it's a flap. And just to reduce the bulk, actually, I'm going to just trim off my corners. So just cutting off a little triangle towards those 1/2 inch marks. And it also hides, if you're a tiny bit off and taller, it sort of hides that as well. So there we go. So I've got that piece, which is going to go there. But just for fun, what you can then do, I can use this piece. Why not, let's put another pocket on there, and let's use this to make 2 pockets, because we can use both sides. So let's see, do we want more? Yeah, let's have more of this. So 2 1/4. So I'm going to make a 2 1/2 inch vertical pocket this time. So 2 1/2 inches. So I need to make it 3 to have my the 1/2 inch to join. I can't even think of the word now. Not hinge, but the bit which you stick down. And my page is 7 1/2, which means I need to go 8 1/2. But this is A4 cardstock, so it's only 8 1/4. Doesn't matter. I've got another trick for that to save some cardstock here. So I need to score 1/2 inch on each side. But if I did that, it would be too short. So what I do is I move it across and I line it up with the first 1/8 and then do a 1/2 inch and 8 inches. So it's just a little bit shorter than your 1/2 inch. But it just means you're not having to cut into another sheet of cardstock. So if you need it, just move it along. And now it just means that it's a little bit tighter when you come to do your taping, but it's still fine. So another card saving tip for you. And again, doing those miters. So I've taken off the tape. So this is going to go vertical. So I'm going to put it with the hinge bit on top. And then take off the top and bottom. It's a bit harder now because you haven't got as much space because it's a bit closer. If you want to add some tape as well, I would do it here purely because it's a shallow pocket. So if you're losing 1/2 inch of the pocket, it can have quite an effect on your page. Right, so now I've got a vertical pocket where that actually fits onto it, but it's 2.5. So I'm going to cut it at 2.25. Make sure I've got it the correct way because it is a paper with an orientation. And I'm going to flip it over and glue this. Down there first, and then I'm going to glue this gingham inside the pocket. So I'm going to do this first because I can see the whole piece. And then this piece is just going to be my liner. There we go. Now, if you find it hard to do that, just find a white piece of cardstock, and if you place it underneath, you can see a bit better for lining things up. Right, so we've got a little paper saving technique for the front. In fact, I'm going to stick that down because I've got an idea I can do for that one anyway. But usually I would wait before gluing everything down to see if I want to cut something into it or do some photo slots. I'm going to go for it this time. So you can start seeing, it's a great way of showing all the different papers in your paper pad. And then it's just a case of you're going to keep going. And if you want to add a pocket, if it's a top loading pocket, you measure your page. So this page is 4.5. You want to add 1/2 inch to the left for that panel and 1/2 inch. So you cut your cardstock at 5.5. If you want it to be a 2-inch tall pocket, you would cut it at 2.5. So wherever your opening is, you add 1/2 inch to the other side, and where your opening isn't, you add a full inch. So I hope that makes some sense. So you've got some paper saving techniques there. Also got some paper saving techniques for the insides here. So for the 7.5, the reason I chose 7.5 inches is because if you cut your paper 1/4 inch less, it's 7.25. And then I did it 5.25, which means you can put a 5x7 photo here and still have a bit of the red showing. So I cut a 7.25 by 7.25 square. Here we go. You can see it. And then cut it at 5.25 and flipped that piece over. And what you've got is a photo mat. So let's glue this in. So this one, I did use the Patterns and Solids for this one. Go. Now I'm putting my horizontal one here because I've got a horizontal hinge there. So it sort of covers that up. And what I could do is the same then on the top here. Then, as you can see, I've got one ready to do. I'll do that later because it is exactly the same process. And then this time, let's have a look. Where's matching? On the next page, this is a 6.5. So I've got a 6.25 by 6.25 square. And then I cut it at 4.25. So this is 6.25 by 4.25. So it's a perfect photo mat for a 6x4 photo. And then the decorative pieces there. So with the pattern solids, you always get that solid colour on one side. So it's brilliant for your photo mats, because then the patterned piece is the extra piece. So this time, because I've got a vertical hinge, I'm going to place this one vertical, sort of just camouflages it a bit better. And so rather than adding pockets everywhere, I found this was quite a nice little way of doing it. I was going to put that one there because they had the vertical words, and that was going to go horizontal. Oh well, I'm going to have 2 vertical ones here then, because I can't put the wording sideways. So let's place this one here. And here. So that is the insides of each of our pieces. And then it's just a case of decorating as you wish, putting pockets wherever you want. But for this one, the back of my 6.5 one, I want to show you how to do a pocket. So I've shown you how to make a pocket this time, and I've shown you how to make a flap. This time, I'm going to show you how to make a pocket and flap to make a closed pocket. So on this side, here we are, let me bring this in to show you. We've got some swivel closures. You can do whatever closure you want. This opens up and we've got a pocket. So this pocket is 3 inches tall. So if my pocket is 3 inches tall, that means my cardstock needs to be 3.5 inches. I did say 3 inches, didn't I? Yep, 3 inches, so 3.5. And my page was 6.5, which means it needs to be 8.5. Oh, and this is only 8.25, but that's okay. I'm going to use that little 1/8 of an inch trick. Oh no, I don't need to do it. Sorry, it's 6.5, so it needs to be 7.5. I don't need to use that trick this time. 6.5, 7.5. Okay. So this is where my opening is. So I'm just going to do like a 3, because that's how big. And then each of the sides, just 1/2 inch on each side. And then my flap is going to be 4.25. So because it's going to be 4.25 and it's a flap, I just need to go to 4.25, 4.75. Just added a 1/2. And the page is 6.5 wide, so I just cut this at 6.5. And then simply scored 4.25. So either 1/2 or 4.25. It's up to you. Put that away. So with my pocket, I am going to add my tape on the 3 sides and on my flap, just all the way across. Now, I don't think I brought it with me today, but what I would normally do see if I can find it. No, I haven't brought it. Is corner round the flaps. But I can do that afterwards anyway. So the flap just gets put on the top. And then the pocket is going to go on the bottom. So hopefully by now you know how to make pockets. And you now know how to make flaps. And you know how to adjust the sizes to make the most out of your papers. So when you're designing this type of page, where you've got a pocket and a flap, you just need to make sure that your flap comes down longer than this edge here. So let's place that down, like so. And the reason I did this at 4 1/4 is, one, it's longer than this gap, because the gap between the top of the page and the top of the pocket was 3 1/2. So by coming down to 4 1/4, it was longer. But also with my 8 1/2 inch, 8 by 8 papers, when I cut in half, I get 4 inch and 4 inch. So I can cover the front and the back using just the one piece. So should we have a go at that? This gingham would, yes, we've got gingham and gingham. Now, I won't stick these down, I don't think, because I will want to corner around and stuff and to get to other things. So my page was 6 1/2. So I'm going to cut this at 6 1/4 first, because I know I'm going to be using the 2 pieces. So I've got that bit, which is going to make a vertical pocket somewhere else. So let's cut this down to 8. And 4 4. So that is making the most out of my paper here. So I've got one to go there, and I've got one to go there. Now make sure when you're rounding the corners, you do the top of this one and the bottom of that one. So that's those 2 pieces done. And then you just need a piece for inside here. So that is going to be 6 1/4 by 6 1/4 square. My pocket is 3 inches, so a little bit smaller is 2 3/4, and I've cut it off, so that's come from the one piece. And now I've got this piece here, which will make a nice big pocket somewhere else. So when I stick these down now, that'll go inside. Like so. And then this piece, which would pattern match, will be flipped over like so. So we've now got our pocket page there. So I'm going to place all those inside there so I can do it later on and cover that. So I think you've seen me cover, so I just ink and cover there. And then you're just going to pick a closure of your choice. The front of page 2, I did do a little bit different. So I am going to show you the full piece of this page. Let me grab the Mother Goose one. It had one of the G45 tags there. So when I opened it, it sort of held these 2 flaps closed. And then this piece of paper, if you look, would have been too short. So I've just used a border from any of the papers just to cover that. So I'm going to show you this page because it is actually designed carefully to make the most of papers here, because these are 3 by 4 photo slots. So I need a 2 1/4 inch page first. Pocket, sorry. 2¼ So 2¼ is 2¾ So yes, this is long enough. So I can use up some of my scrap card. And my page was 6½, so I need it to be 7½. So we're going to place these, tape up, and tape, and just do those wonky mitre. So here we go. So this one I have measured to match my cardstock rather than my papers, which you'll see in a second. So a 3×4 photo would need a 3¼ by 4¼ flap to go on. So I've now left a 4¼ inch gap, and a 3¼ would come to exactly halfway down this page. So it's all measured precisely for this. So I'm going to cut my card at 4¼ inches, and then my page mat would be 3¼ So you're right, I got a 3×4 journal card from the 12×12 kit. So it needs to be 3¼ If I cut a 3¼ I haven't got my hinge, so I need to go to 3¾ and another one at 3¾ There we go. And I'm just going to do a hinge at ½ inch down both of those. There we go, and I'm just going to trim off some excess. And we're going to put these opening on our page. So I'm going to place it so it's in line with my pocket, and so it's not going to interrupt. So by taking away that little little angle, it's not going to interfere. And now I can put it up to the pocket and the edge there and have it all nicely lined up. And then just use your 3×4 cutter part. So if you've only got the 8×8 pad, obviously you won't have this size a journal card. So I've just taken 2 from the, sorry about that. So what I did, if I bring back the Mother Goose one, because that didn't have, I didn't have the 12×12. So you can see you're making the most of your journal cards as well here. What I did here was use the smaller ones and then just put a strip of extra decorative paper down the edge. So it hasn't got a closure as such, but what you do have is as soon as you put a photo or anything in, it holds everything down. So as you can see, I haven't done any pockets for my small pages yet. The reason being is I wait until I got all these offcuts here, It's got a nice big one here, so I could make a nice deep pocket with that one. So if I was going to make a vertical pocket with this one for this page, the page is left at 1 3/4, which means if I add 1/4 inch, it's a 2-inch pocket. So I can make a 2-inch pocket to go there, and I can use the scrap from that. I've got a horizontal piece here, and this is also 1 3/4, funnily enough. So it's going to be 2-inch pocket going across. So I'd make it 2.5 to get my hinge, and just add 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. So it's big enough to go here, so I could make one there. So let's have a look at the Mother Goose one. So I've shown you everything you need to know. It's up to you now how you mix and match it, but I will finish it off and there will be a walkthrough to go for this. Right. So if you have a look at the Mother Goose one, you'll sort of start to see where scrap elements have been taken from one place and put in another. So this piece here actually came from the scrap of this piece. This piece, you will see, is opposite direction to this. So it's come from the waste from that piece here and used it there. Another bit of scrap, again, left over from that piece is used to line that one. So you're just using all your scraps and working out. I did use some fancy dies, edger dies for that one. And I've used some Cool Cats photo slots there to fit a 4x4 photo in. But you can see how I've used that piece and the leftover piece made that pocket, I think. So that's 5 1/4. So if I put my 5 1/4, you can see it makes 8 inches in the end. So that and that was cut like so. And then I've probably taken a scrap from somewhere else and just used that. Yeah, look, I've got scrap there across that way. So using your measurements really, really carefully, and whatever you get left over, that's what you use to make your pockets. And then just use some little circle dies or circle punches. One of the little photo cards just stuck on the front there. But it's a very clever one. And hopefully, by showing you my decorating process, rather than taking you through and giving you a cutting guide of every little pocket, you now have the ability now to work it out for yourself and to maximize your papers in your other projects. So here we are. This is the finished one. I will do a more in-depth walkthrough, but this is what you can achieve. I still had papers left over on my 8x8, so I could have made it with just one pad. But as you can see, I have used some of the patterns of solids in the tutorial, and I've used some of the 12x12 pad for the journal cards. And of course, with the patterns of solids, it does mean I was able to make a few extra tags as well. And we've added some ephemera, some Cool Cats paper clips, which are actually made of paper, so you can tie it all in with your project, and some photo slots. We've got pockets. We have tuck spots with the ephemera just by gluing down parts of them. Again, some tags for 3x4 photos, and some more ephemera and photo slots, ephemera. So you can really go to town then, and you can decorate it as you wish. So hopefully you found some nice tips in this tutorial that allows you then to take papers from one cut and create pockets from another. Oh, and here, just to finish off, we've got one of my double tags, which was one of my Graphic 45 brand ambassador assignments last year, was to make a reel. So I made a reel and a full length video on how to make a double pocket die with some ephemera then, and some of the patterns of solids. Oh, and again, some ephemera to make a large tuck spot here as well. So thank you for watching my brand ambassador project, and hopefully I will see you all again soon.